Hey, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be my general review of the Bloodstorm Return of the Beast event. So this was a 3.5k event where everybody was mainly just going for the win. There were some scenarios that crippled you if you had a very expensive general and if you had a very expensive really big unit because these needed to die in some game. Um, and otherwise, yeah, it's mostly an event where a lot of people come by just to play for fun. And you could also see that in the army lists that there were quite a lot of fun army lists, not over the top in terms of power level. What I decided to bring was my 201 Dread Elves. So it is possible to cram in more than 200 Dread Elves at 3.5k. My list was 20 Spearmen times 10. Three times with the Banner of Discipline, twice with the Flaming Standard, and then a Dreadlord on foot with Crippling Frost and the Seal of the Republic and a Talisman of Shielding. So that in the end, the Dreadlord has 5 attacks at strength 7 with this great weapon, and every hit that he does in a duel makes it that the opponent has an attack less for that round in the duel. Yeah, this is the list. This is how it looks like. I can generally say how I performed. It's a really fun army to play, because the Dread Elf stats are in this army just right enough to be able to play with it basically. Like Discipline 8 is just high enough. +1 to hit, +1 to wound is really helpful in a lot of times, especially +1 to wound against monsters is really helpful. And yeah, the units, they do flee from time to time, but they do rally also from time to time. I had the second game where I really got mashed because of fear tests. But then again, me and my opponent, we also concluded that my dice in that game were just absolutely horrific with, like, out of the 8 fear tests that I took, me failing 7 of them. And also just generally, like, having 16 attacks against the target and then 2+2 hit, 5 misses, and I did that like 5 times. But we'll get more into that with the report of that game. Then, well, besides me, there were some other players. Mostly the event had a lot of carnage. So tables like this were quite a common sight, where everything was just dead at the end of the at the end of the game. And for the rest, this video is mostly going to be just pictures of beautiful armies that were present at the event. So this is a dwarf army that actually won the Best Painted award, and all of the dwarves are also on scenic basis with some rocks, and it from up close it also looks amazing. Like the amount of paintwork that went into this is it's at a really high standard, I would say. We also had a lot of other fun things at the tournament. So someone brought this gigantic doom wheel kind of thing. It's for his army that he plays as Ogre Kingdoms. So this is his rock Oroch. And I also still have a picture from another angle. There were also players that were quite creative with their armies. So for example, this guy with his Chaos Lizardman, he has been converting quite a lot, and this is the end result. It's an army that I think he plays it both as Chaos and as Lizardman, which I am really fond of personally, because that means that you don't have to invest another 500 or more euros to get another army. And he also did really well with just conversions on a lot of the models, and also the blue, white, purple scheme, I think, really goes well with both of the armies. Then we also had some beast herds, and I also thought that this army looked also really cool. Most notably, like the chariots that he plays, I think are really cool, where it's just a pack of dogs with one guy on the back of the dogs in the back. So you have, I think it's 5 dogs per warhounds per stand, and then there's a gore or a war horn, long horn on the back 2 dogs, and I think that's really cool. Also the Jabberwock model on the left, that's just an amazing model. And here we have an Empire of Sun style army. I always find it enjoyable to see just Empire armies, just for the, I don't know, for the nostalgia. I think it's I like that it also works in terms of the game. That generally something like this does perform still quite okay on the table. And Dynasties was there with yet another really well painted army. It's incredible how many efforts people put in their armies nowadays, with stuff that really looks good. I think it's also a combination of people that have been in the hobby for quite a lot of time and now know how to effectively paint an army, so that the army looks quite impressive. These War Sphinxes, it's just, oh my god. Then Orcs and Goblins was also there. Everybody was there. So yeah, this is a Night Goblin army that I think is really cool, with like the old school giants. I think the hag in the back also really fits well with the army. All kinds of different bouncy squigs, some converted squigs. I just think it has been done really cool. Then we have some Warriors of the Dark Gods that looked amazing. Then we have some Zombie Pirates that looked amazing. Yeah, everything looked amazing. So let's first still look at these Warriors of the Dark Gods, because I didn't really give them much attention so far. I think it's a really effective way of just making your army set a tone, basically, with just limiting yourself to specific colors, and then just on first glance it already looks really good. Then the Zombie Pirates that I was just quickly mentioning, this is also really cool. Everything is cool, man. So he has the crabs as Knights of the Sun Griffin, and then he has Felbats as riders with some guys that have pistols. He had some Shark Cavalry in the back left, and then the rest of the models are basically militia models. There's some pirates in there, and I think it's really well done, and I would love to play against it sometime. As a final picture, I have a sneak peek of my last game, and well, I can make this into a battle report basically, by saying that my mobility on my blocks was not sufficient to deal with like 3 dragons practically. I mean, my opponent has a phoenix with a guy on top. He had a dragon with a guy on top, and a big dragon, like the ancient dragon. That's too much for me to handle with these blocks. So he could just pick them off one by one. Still, it was an enjoyable game. I still tried to make something out of it, and I believe in the first or second turn I still had my opponent in a bit of a position where he was doubting his capabilities, and then everything went to a situation where it wasn't that good anymore for me. Yeah, so that was an easy 20-0 for my opponent, even though I did manage some objectives, so I still got some points out of the game. But yeah, Dread Elf Horde against dragons, not a good combination. With that, I would like to thank you for watching, and I will hopefully see you the next time.